All right, so I got this comment on a video that I made saying that the general strike in Minnesota had begun. And I wanted to say thank you for this comment to this person. I think this is a question a lot of people have. And you forced me by asking this comment to think about the situation a little more deeply in order to come up with this answer. So I appreciate that. But I'm going to lay out what I think personally the goal of the general strike is. But the goal of the general strike is to help Minnesota by increasing its leverage, changing the political calculus for national elites, and showing both ICE and Trump that the state can impose real costs and disruptions when it is attacked, instead of just absorbing violence quietly. So, general strike is mainly not about helping the economy, especially not in this case. It is about withholding cooperation so that normal governing, policing, and business cannot proceed without concessions. You basically make the cost of doing business so incredibly high for them that it's not worth it. When people refuse to work, go to school, or shop, they disrupt production and profits for employers, especially those aligned with or lobbying for federal policy. You also shut down or strain institutions like school, transit, downtown business districts that local and state officials are responsible for keeping functional. And you generate nationwide media coverage that reframes the issue from a law enforcement incident into a political crisis and a legitimacy crisis. So, as I take it, your question was basically if Trump wants to punish blue states, why give him an excuse? Why do it for him? Why make it easier? But I think the organizer's answer is he's already punishing you. The strike is about refusing to make that punishment easy, invisible, and cost free. Even if Trump personally hates blue states, and we all know he does not govern in a vacuum. This is a sustained, well supported strike hurts major companies with operations, headquarters, or supply chains in Minnesota who do care about lost sales and interrupted logistics. It puts governors, mayors, university leaders, hospital systems, and chamber of commerces under direct, intense pressure to demand changes from DHS and the White House. It also creates legal and political openings for lawsuits, state legislation curbing cooperation with ICE, and investigations. Uh, and it allows these things to become more viable when there is visible, organized public support. Trump can ignore moral appeals from activists, but sustained economic and political disruption forces his allies, businesses, local law enforcement, and key swing district politicians to reconsider how far they're willing to go for his agenda. And you have to consider the current moment in Minnesota. Right now, you have a high profile unaliving of Renée Good that has become a symbol of the out of control ICE force. You've got state and local lawsuits and legislative moves against the federal deployment. And right now, you have a 1 day economic blackout with hundreds of businesses closed and thousands marching on one of the coldest days of the year. And this will draw a lot of attention, but it is also only a trial run. Keep that in mind too, because for strikes and blackouts to be truly effective, they generally have to be sustained. But this is something that we're doing. You don't just like jump to a giant general strike. It's difficult to do that. It's easier to do smaller strikes and build your way up. It allows you to coordinate, build that community, get people on board, that sort of thing. But this combination of events in this combination of events is exactly how local outrage becomes a sustained national scale liability for a federal program. On the surface, a strike looks self destructive, I know. You lose wages, businesses lose revenue, schools lose a day of instruction. But from the perspective of resistance politics, The short term economic pain is sort of an investment to reduce long term harm. Constant raids, terror in communities, and normalized federal immunity. It signals that communities will not quietly accept ICE unaliving an American citizen in a car and then gassing teenagers outside of a high school and then just go back and return to their lives and businesses as usual. And it forces everyone from suburban shoppers to corporate boards to pick a side instead of treating ICE's violence as just some sort of background noise. So think of it this way: if Minnesota's economy hums along like nothing happened, the message to Washington is you can do this again. There's no price. So the strike doesn't help Minnesota by boosting the GDP. It helps by changing what is politically and practically possible. It strengthens networks between unions, immigrant communities, faith groups, and students, which can sustain longer term campaigns, things like longer general strikes, legal defense funds, mutual aid, or electoral organizing. It also gives local officials a clear mandate and visible backing when they refuse cooperation or demand ICE withdraw. It also raises national reputational cost of operating Operation Metro Surge style deployments in Minnesota or other areas, making it less attractive for future crackdowns. So the logic is if you treat our state like a federal sacrifice zone, we will make it ungovernable on those terms. The goal is not to win Trump's sympathy. It is to not deny him and ICE an easy, low cost victory in Minnesota.